Hi, everybody. I was so worried about my hair, and then I thought, well, there's no getting over that there's not much left of it anymore, as you can see, and it does what it wants to do. And I can't really do too much about it anymore. So I'm going to have to learn how to deal with it. Um, Fonda's been asking us all to do a video, and I was thinking how I would do a video about my, maybe one of my journals or something, but I decided that, well, I don't know if you've noticed the post that I put online. I go inside my art room and thinking, oh, I might do something, and then I see the mess that was left the middle of January after I taught my last journal class and art journaling class, altered book journaling, I should say. And I lose all interest and walk away. So I don't have the strength to clean that up right now. So I'm not going to stress over it. And hopefully this weekend I'll get my husband Mark to help me put stuff away, at least clean the top of the desk off so I can do some things. So, there was a couple of months there that I'm sure everybody knows I was in the hospital. Things kind of went from crazy to crazier, and started out with me. I thought I had this a terrible virus. It started actually in December. I've since found out that I guess that I had got a staphylococcal bacteria. It was in my whole bloodstream, and I had no idea, but I just kept getting worse and worse. And as Christmas, I was not feeling well, and the New Year, and I had to teach my class January 11th, and quite honestly, I can hardly remember even what most went on at the class, or how I did, or what I said. But the next day, I was basically kind of in bed, and over the next 2 weeks, up until January 23rd, when I got my husband Mark to take me to the doctors with the idea of getting a note and kind of fast track into the hospital. That's when I found out that my blood sugars, if anybody knows anything about blood sugars, are supposed to be in the 5 to 7 range. Mine was 39.4. So I had no idea I was diabetic, although my doctor had me on metformin for over a year, with the idea that I was kind of on the edge or on the verge of could go diabetic, but he never had me in to do testing, all that sort of stuff. So never occurred to me. But previous to going in the hospital, I also had got these new glasses, which I'm still having trouble seeing out of. And I was blaming it on the ophthalmologist, because my vision had gone blurry, and all the while really was diabetes, which I didn't realize. And being so thirsty and lethargic, I couldn't even get myself out of bed, hardly to make something for dinner, or I was in pretty rough shape. So as I said, finally on the 23rd I went in, and first thing was, as soon as I went into the hospital, it was okay, get her in a room. I ended up in acute care. They pumped me full of heavy-duty antibiotics and insulin for 4 days, and on the 5th day, I was in acute care for about 2 days, and then I got transferred into a temporary palliative care big room that they had set up. That was weird. Families were coming in and spending time with their loved ones who were at their final days, and I was struggling to stay here in the world, and it was kind of surreal. But on the fifth day, and while I was in there, I could feel this, the anxiety and the ramping up of something going on in the hospital, and people being moved all over the place. And they had just started to talk about this terrible virus, and I'm not sure even at that point that I knew the name COVID, or coronavirus, but there was talk about this terrible virus. And I said to my husband, I said, I think it was the fifth day. I said, I think I'm going to be released. He thought I was crazy. I mean, I was in no condition to be released, but quite honestly, they needed the hospital beds. So when the doctor approached me on that Monday, about an hour later after I talked to my husband about it, I got released from the hospital, and I came right out and said, like, I guess you need my bed. And he said, yeah, we actually do. So probably was a good thing that I got released. But I had literally went to the pharmacy, and I think I had 5 minutes instruction on how to inject myself with an insulin needle. And I was diagnosed insulin dependent. I was having to give myself 4 shots a day, 3 of them just before each meal, and then 1 at bedtime. And learning how to prick my finger and take blood sugar counts and all that kind of stuff. So it was a little bit bizarre. And all the while, when I came home, I was feeling good about being home, but each day I kept getting weaker and weaker. And I didn't know if it was the diabetes or what it was until finally the next week, one night I was in the washroom in the middle of the night, and I could not get myself, I had no use of my legs. I could not get myself up off the toilet, and no matter what. And I called Mark, and he came in and he tried to get me up, and I kept falling back. My legs were like complete rubber. I had no use of my legs. So he called an ambulance, and then they ended up having to call in a backup because I was in this little tiny small space in our washroom here where we rent, and they were talking about having to rip the whole shower wall out to get me out. It's like a little tiny space. It ended up they called in backup, and then they used 2 bed sheets and made this gigantic sling for me, and the 4 paramedics got me out and got me into the ambulance, and back I went up to that hospital that I just got released from. A bunch of tests were run, MRI, etc., and they're all very quickly done, trying to find out what was going on. They came to me, I think I went up there by ambulance about 3:30 in the morning. They came to me in the afternoon, early afternoon, and after MRI in the morning and chest x-rays and CAT scans and everything else, EKGs. They said that we have found, from the MRI, we have found blood on your spine, and we need to send you to Sunnybrook Hospital, which I don't, if anybody doesn't know, in Toronto is a highly respected hospital. And so next thing I knew, I was being whisked down by ambulance to Sunnybrook, and by the time they got me down there, and the infectious doctors put together a team to figure out what they were going to do with me, and then looked at all the reports and ran a few more tests, etc., and then came to me, I think it was about 1 o'clock in the morning, and they said, well, it was probably before that, but we have to do surgery so on your spine. And at that point, I was so out of it that whatever. I would have said, whatever, you got to do what you got to do. So, but they had to, it was going to take some time to get a team together and a operating room set up at that time in the morning, and it was 3:30 before I went in for surgery, is what Mark tells me. So I woke up the next day. in a fair amount of pain because they had gone in and they found abscesses all over my spine. So they had cut in through my back muscles and nerves, etc., to get into remove the abscesses, all of the abscesses all over my spine, and I had absolutely no use of my legs. So I went through a period where I was like in a diaper. They had to use a swing, that they have that comes down from the ceiling to swing me over into a chair just to get me up so I wouldn't get bed sores and all that kind of stuff, or pneumonia. And eventually, after, and heavy duty antibiotics being pumped into me nonstop because of the staphylococcal infections. So I was just about ready. They were discussing at one point about, okay, you're going to go to a rehab center in Toronto, and they're going to work with you for your legs and teach you how to walk again and all that kind of stuff. So that afternoon, I don't think it was even an hour later, the social worker came in and she said, Lynn, you were going to go to St. John's rehab this afternoon, but because of the C. diff, we're not able to send you. We have to put you into isolation. And I was like, C. diff? I had no idea what they were talking about. Nobody had said anything to me. Well, the short of the long is I ended up in isolation. They found me a room at St. John's. They didn't have any at Sunnybrook because of the COVID situation, and they found me in a isolation room, and they shipped me to St. John's, and I went into isolation for about 2 weeks. Again, I was in a diaper, couldn't move my body, and I had to work up strength, ability to be able to get myself, to be able to use a bedpan, and then to be able to get myself out of the bed, and to use a walker. And then they got me into therapy, and 2 weeks later, I guess, I got released on March 19th, and so I'm home now, and I'm working on physio exercises every day, trying to build my strength up in my body. Unfortunately, my hair I don't think is going to grow back in, so c'est la vie, right? And at least I'm still here. I'm obviously still here for a reason, right? That's all I keep saying to myself. But this COVID thing is really freaking me out because I have severely compromised immune system now. I was before with being post-cancer survivor for 12 years, but now I'm severely compromised. So that is very, very scary, but I'll get through it. And now my next challenge, besides getting off a walker and having the strength developed to actually walk again independently, will be to get back into my art. So keep your fingers crossed for me. Send me some inspiring thoughts, creative vibes, and maybe I'm going to try and get back in there next week. And I really appreciate all the support and lovely packages I got in the mail that people sent to me. Love you guys. It really kept me buoyed. So now I'm getting weepy, so time to go. Good to be back. I can almost halfway see again. Plus I'm on a keyboard, so at home on my computer, so now I can type from memory on my QWERTY keyboard and answer and make comments and write back almost like normal, like I was before. So that's all, and just saying again, Fonda, love you. You are a very amazing, loving, kind, supportive woman, and I'm so glad to have found you a few years ago, and it's made all the difference to me. So that's all, guys. Take it easy. Have a great day. Bye.